All right, guys, welcome back. So I wanted to do a cook with me video, but apparently it's been a good minute since I was an alcoholic and I can't hang. So I settled for some mac and cheese. Dr. Pepper. And sriracha on the mac and cheese. So one of the video suggestions you guys had was obviously the get ready with me. Another one was like a story time, so I'll settle for that just so I could have 3 videos today. So everything today has been very upbeat and it's about to go downhill. But I'll just kind of show you girls the type of ish I've been through. Man, I want to keep it upbeat, but I'll just keep it honest. I low-key touched on this subject a few months ago, perhaps. But long story short, over a year ago now, it's crazy because I had a lot going on that day in particular as far as like stressful stuff. And long story short, that day in particular, I needed to go to the bank to withdraw some money. And I have always been one to watch like dash cam videos, videos of all types and stuff. And I've already seen videos of people going to the bank and getting robbed because they are being watched very closely by thieves and just crazy ass fucking people. So I've always been a very cautious person. So that day in particular, I knew I had to go to the bank to withdraw a certain amount, and I was very nervous to do so because, again, I've watched videos of people being followed and all that stuff. So I basically kept avoiding going to the bank, and I was going to go to the bank pretty much far away from home to somehow avoid being followed back home. So I was avoiding that, and I was supposed to meet up with a friend, but somehow she kept kind of lagging and stuff. I ended up driving my way to the bank, far away from home, and I met up my brother there. So I asked him if I should go to like their little offices or just go to a teller, I guess it would be, based on the amount I needed to withdraw. And my brother had suggested that I could just go to a teller because it wasn't too big of an amount. And so I was like, okay, whatever. So I went to the teller. Keep in mind that I've gone to this bank very often because it's close to my work, just not close to my home. So I knew the manager that worked there. So I drove all the way to that bank, met up my brother, walked inside. I went to a teller, and the teller I went to wasn't someone I recognized, but somehow she recognized me because of the manager. So when I went up to her, she was like, "Oh my gosh, aren't you the vanity girl?" And I was kind of like, what the heck? So I'm like trying to think, how the hell does she recognize me? And then I realized the manager must have told her about me. And then I realized the manager was standing right next to her, so he told her about me. And I was like, okay, whatever, that makes sense. So I was like, okay, I'm trying to withdraw an amount, and I'm still kind of very skeptical about this whole situation. I don't know why. something in me tells me like it's just such a weird thing. So I'm like, I want to withdraw some money. I tell her the amount I want to withdraw, but I'm kind of very like cautious about saying it. And then she's like, okay, yeah, so you'd want to withdraw this amount. And I'm like, yeah, you know, that's what I want to withdraw. So she like confirms the amount, and she's like, okay, yeah, and like, your name is so and so on Instagram. And I was like, yeah, you know, that's me. And then we go about our business. She's like, would you like me to repeat or like go over the amount I just withdrew for you? And I was like, no, I'm fine. So she puts the money in an envelope, she hands it to me. I walk away to my brother. We walk into his car. Even though we both drove separately, we go over the amount. I hand him a small portion of the money, and then I go to my vehicle and I put the money in my purse, seal the purse. The purse is still on me, and I start, you know, driving off. My brother coincidentally happens to call me, and he asked about something that I had just told him about. So we kind of start talking about it. As I was probably like halfway home, my brother and I hang up. And then when I was almost home, getting off the freeway, I started to notice a vehicle following me. I don't know. It's kind of like when you're just minding your business and then something all of a sudden kind of clicks in your head, and you're just like, okay, well, that's odd. And you start paying attention to it. So perhaps when I got off the freeway, I started paying attention to a vehicle in particular. So we were getting off the freeway, we get to a light, right? The light turns green, we both turn left. We both end up passing 1, 2, 3, 4 lights. We both pass 4 lights the same direction. So I was like, okay, might just be a coincidence. So we pass those 4 lights together. I make a right at the 4th light, and the person makes a right. I was like, okay, probably coincidence. Like, I'm trying to not overthink this. We both make a right, we both make a left, and I was like, holy shit, okay. When you make a left, like, we both happen to make a right, or we both pass the stop sign. So we both passed the stop sign, and I'm like, okay, shit's getting weird at this point. We passed the stop sign, and the last turn I could possibly make, I make a left, and the car makes a right. So I was like, okay, it was all mere coincidence. I've just been overthinking it. I made a left, the car made a right. So I make my left. I keep driving down the neighborhood, and then I finally make a right into my home. And my, I guess, worst tendency, which kept to... So I drove up into my home. I stayed in my vehicle for a few minutes. I would say like maybe a minute and a half. Every time I get into the house, I sit in my car, I relax for a bit before I walk into my house. So I drove up into the driveway, sat there for a good minute, and keep in mind that when I'm sitting, standing, walking anywhere, I tend to look up a lot. So anytime I see a black spot up top, like I look, and I'm very aware of things. So I was sitting in my car, I don't know what I was doing, and something just caught my eye. And I saw a car pulling up behind me. It's very hard to explain, but let's just say I'm pulling up this way, like this is a sidewalk and I'm right next to the sidewalk. So I'm pulling up this way and then I park into my driveway, right? So I saw a vehicle pulling up into my driveway back onto that sidewalk. So instead of going this way, they're coming this way. They like drove up to my sidewalk. So as I'm in my driveway, I see the vehicle from my rearview mirror pulling up into the sidewalk area. So I'm watching the car pull up, and real quick I'm thinking to myself, you know, okay, who's home? Who would I be expecting to come over? Who would whoever is home be expecting to come over? My brothers weren't over, like nobody was technically home. So I'm just like thinking super quick, who the hell is here? Was, you know, parked behind me in such a weird, awkward way. And this was all so freaking quick. So I'm in my car just looking in the mirror, and as I'm looking, trying to think fast, someone was getting out of the vehicle behind me, and I'm just watching that person walk up behind me in the rearview mirror, and I'm kind of looking back, and I'm just like, holy shit, like I'm just trying to think really quickly. So as that person is coming up, I call my brother because he was the last person I was with. And I'm watching the person come up to my car, and I'm waiting for my brother to take the call. This was all so quick, guys. Like, I can't tell you how quick this entire thing was. So the car pulls up, person walks out. I'm calling my brother. Person's walking up. My brother happens to answer, and he answered. He's like, hello. And I'm like, someone is here for the money. And he's just like, what? And I'm like, someone is here for the money. And I'm just watching the person walk up to my car. So obviously they were coming from the back. They start walking to the front. I'm still in my driver's seat, of course. The car was still running. My car was locked. The person goes up to my passenger seat. He kind of obviously tried to open it. He kneeled down and looked at me, and coincidentally, just a few weeks prior to that, I had got a ticket for having my windows tinted, and I happened to remove the tint just days prior to that. So the person went up to those windows, the passenger window. He tried to open the door, which was locked. He looked in, kind of kneeled down, looked at me, and then he stood up and he got very close to the window, and he shattered the window with, like, I don't know what, but he came prepared. So he shattered the window, and keep in mind that I'm on the phone with my brother as all of this is going on. I had just told him, like, someone is here for the money, and he's like trying to wrap his head around it in a few seconds. And by the time the person came up to me, I'm like on the phone still, and I'm just like, someone is here for the money. And I'm just watching the person trying to get close to my car, close to the window, trying to open the door, and then shatter the glass. So I just start yelling. In the process of the person walking to my door, I was somehow watching them, but I had already put my car in reverse. Like, I had switched at least the gears, but I'm just still frozen, like watching this person come up to me. And as soon as they shatter the window and jump into my vehicle, I floor it and back up. I throw the car in reverse. I backed up at least like a good it's so hard to think of like the exact distance, but let's just say like 50 to 100 feet. Like I went out of my driveway. Imagine like where your driveway's at to the stop sign in your street area. So I backed up past the stop sign, and once I passed the stop sign, I slammed my brakes, and the person kind of like flew. They were halfway in, halfway out in my vehicle, trying to grab onto my purse. and I slammed my brakes. They kind of flew forward, so they kind of smacked themselves with like the front of my car, the doorway. My brother's still on the phone call, and I just kind of yell at him again, like, you know, someone is trying to get the money. And from there, I couldn't recall anything he must have said. Like, I'm sure he just heard me screaming. And the person, when I slammed the brakes, he just told me, like, let go of the purse. And I was not about to let go of the purse. Like, this person was about to come up on some money in a matter of seconds, when it took me so fucking long to work for that money. So honestly, to many people it might be the dumbest decision ever, but I was like, kill me before you fucking make me work twice for this fucking money. Like, like, I will put a fight for anything and everything. So I backed up, I slammed the brakes, the person kind of like hit themselves. So let's kind of like go back a little. When that person broke the window and jumped in, I had already put the car in reverse, and I had the person tried to grab onto my purse, and I was grabbing onto my purse with this hand. I had the purse that like kind of crosses around your arm. So they were trying to grab onto my purse, and I had my arm around the purse trying to hold on to it, and I had one hand on the steering wheel, which my gear was already put in reverse. So I backed up, and I'm still holding on to my purse. The person kind of like slams to the front, and then I put the car back on drive, and then the person had told me to let go of the purse, and I was like, no. So I kept holding on to it, and then I put the car back on drive with my left hand, and then I sped up forward and then made a quick left, and that person flew off the window. So they flew off. I was within a neighborhood, so I had to make my way back out the neighborhood. By then, I was just like hysterical, screaming, crying. My brother was like, what is going on? And I just kept yelling, like, they're trying to get the money, they're trying to get the money. There wasn't much I could say. Like, I just kept crying and screaming. And I just kept trying to rush my way out of the neighborhood because, as I mentioned before, the way they had parked, obviously backwards on a sidewalk compared to how you normally would, they were basically positioned or stationed to just take off. So I made my way out of the neighborhood. I just kept hauling ass. I skipped every stoplight or stop sign I could. Every light I kept getting to kept turning red, and I would fucking pass that. I would make a right, I would bust a left, and I just made my way to a police station. My brother was guiding me to the closest police station in that area. And then I remember making it to the police station, which unfortunately I ended up walking hysterically into a library. And I walked in and I was just crying, and I was like, this is not a police station. So I walked right back out. I walked into my car, and I happened to leave my phone in the car. So I'm just crying, and I'm just like, holy fuck, like, where the hell am I heading? So I got back connected with my brother, and I was like, where the hell is the police station? He's like, you were supposed to pass a little bit more, and then the police station is right there. So I get back in my car, and I try to get out of that driveway, and a van happened to just be stopped in the driveway. Like, he wasn't making a left or a right out of the driveway. And I start honking at it, like, get the hell out of the way. Like, are you part of this whole, like, ordeal? Like, are you trying to rob me? I was tripping the fuck out. So I just kept honking, like, move the fuck out of the way. And finally they moved. Finally I got to the police station. A cop happened to be pulling out of there, and they saw me just driving like a fucking maniac. And I busted a quick U-turn, pulled into a driveway, and I just ran out of my car. And a cop turned back around and they stopped and they're like, "Are you okay?" And I'm just crying. And then, from there it was basically over. Like, I started telling them everything that happened. I waited for my brother, who happened to be on the phone with me the entire time. I waited for him to arrive to me. He happened to be with my parents, so he was telling them the situation the whole time. So I can only imagine, like, how tough it was for him and them. And then, yeah, I mean, now it's been over a year since all that happened, but it's definitely gotten easier to deal with, but it's taught me so much. It's crazy how precautious I was trying to be and what ended up happening. I was just so nervous about the whole situation, and then all of that ended up happening. It took a toll on me for the longest time. I felt so bad. I felt so bad for my brother to have to, like, hear that. Imagine, you go do something and then imagine, like, you go meet up a friend or something, and then you're like, okay, we got things done. You go about your way, and imagine that friend calls you back screaming that something crazy is happening. So I just feel so bad that he had to hear all of that. The panic, the fear in my voice. I'm honestly such a tough person, but I'm sure it just doesn't compare to someone having to hear your voice with fear in it. It's crazy. I didn't think this story time would be like this, because it took me so long to get over it. I kept following up with a private investigator to get some answers about it, get some answers of who was in the bank with me when I was making that withdrawal, so I could get some answers of who could have possibly tried to rob me. And I never got answers. So all I could do from that point forward was be twice as much precautious, I guess you could say. But it's been so long since I've really talked about it in depth. For the longest time, every time I talked about it, it would just break me, and then eventually I was able to talk about it. And then now that I'm talking about it, it's not that easy. But it wasn't an easy situation. So it's definitely opened my eyes to what a fucked up world we could live in, and that you can't trust anybody. You always have to keep your eyes peeled. And better safe than sorry. So there you guys have it. That's my story time of a while back ago. If you guys could learn anything from the stories, to please just be safe out there. Be safe. Be cautious with anything you do. And, you know, I don't know, get a taser, get a fucking pepper spray. I started taking Krav Maga, but no matter what I do in freaking life, I will always put up a fucking fight. Point blank, period. I will go down fighting for myself. I'm not a weak fucking person. I think fast, I think quick. And you are, anybody would be stupid to think that they're gonna catch me on a good one. So there you guys have it. I haven't eaten my fucking mac and cheese, so I'm eating now. And thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys next time.